The courtroom in Toledo, Ohio, felt colder than it needed to be, not just from the overworked air conditioning, but from the way people looked at 12-year-old Maya Daniels, like she was something fragile, something that didn't belong there. Maya sat still, hands tightly folded in her lap, wearing the yellow cardigan her foster mother had ironed for her the night before. Even though Maya had told her not to, she was barely 5 feet tall, her brown eyes too calm for her age. The courtroom was only half full. Some reporters, caseworkers, and her foster parents, Karen and Greg Miller, sat on one side. On the other side, a woman with tightly coiled hair in a red blazer held a tissue in one hand and a manila folder in the other. Maya knew her name, Jasmine Price, her biological aunt. She had met her twice, once at a supervised visit and once at a diner, where Jasmine spent most of the time arguing with the waitress about how cold her fries were. Maya didn't want to be here, but she understood exactly why. Judge Mark Thompson, in his 60s, with reading glasses hanging from his neck, sat on the bench like it was the 1,000th time he had done it. He looked at Maya as if she were a pawn on a chessboard, out of place. "Miss Daniels," he said, shuffling through papers before leaning in slightly, "I understand this is unusual. Having a child testify in a custody dispute isn't something I take lightly." "I understand," Maya replied, her voice steady, unwavering. Judge Thompson raised his eyebrows, surprised by the firmness in her tone. The courtroom had expected nerves, maybe even tears. But Maya didn't fidget. She didn't avoid eye contact. She just sat there, calm and prepared, like someone who had already rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her head. A cough, a pen clicking, a phone vibrating, then being silenced. Judge Thompson cleared his throat. "You seem pretty sharp," he said, trying to loosen the tension. "I imagine you do well in school." "I do okay," Maya replied, her voice still steady. Judge Thompson chuckled. "Modest, too," he said with a smile. Then he paused, eyes glinting with mischief. "Tell me something just for fun. Ever sneak a cookie before dinner?" Maya tilted her head slightly, as if considering the question carefully. "That's a leading question, Your Honor," she said, her tone measured. "You're implying I have, rather than asking if I did." A soft laugh echoed from the gallery. Judge Thompson raised his eyebrows. "Well then," he said, looking around the room, "how about we play a little game to loosen things up? I'll ask a few questions and you tell me, truth or lie?" Maya glanced around the room, took a deep breath, and nodded. "Okay, but I might ask questions too." From the moment the first question left his lips, Judge Thompson realized this wouldn't be a game. Maya wasn't here to play. She was here to change everything. "All right, Maya," Judge Thompson said, settling back in his chair. "Let's start easy. Truth or lie, you've eaten an entire pizza by yourself." Maya smiled slightly, her eyes flicking toward her foster parents. "I'd say that's a lie," she replied. "If I ever ate a whole pizza, I'd probably have to ask for help." The gallery chuckled, and even Judge Thompson cracked a smile. "Okay, so we know you're not a pizza champion," he said. "Now, truth or lie, you want to live with your biological aunt, Jasmine?" Maya hesitated for a moment, her gaze drifting to Jasmine. The woman's eyes were wide with expectation, but Maya didn't waver. "That's a lie," she said quietly. "I don't know her well enough to live with her." There was a ripple in the room. The tension was thick, and the silence that followed felt almost heavy. Jasmine clenched her jaw, but Maya didn't notice. "So, you'd rather stay with your foster parents?" Judge Thompson asked, his tone softening. Maya's voice was clear as she answered. "Yes, I feel safe with them. They've always been there when I needed someone. I don't want to leave. The judge looked at her for a long moment, his eyes softening. I see, he said, jotting down something in his notebook. And what about your aunt, Maya? What would you say to her if she asked you to move in with her? Maya's gaze turned inward for a moment, as if she was considering how to phrase her response. I'd tell her I need more time to get to know her, she said finally. I can't just go live with someone I barely know. There was a quiet pause, and for a moment, no one spoke. The tension was palpable, thick enough to cut through the air. Judge Thompson finally set his pen down, looking at Maya with something like respect. I think you've just answered the most important question of the day, he said, his voice soft but firm. You're a smart kid, Maya, a very smart kid. Maya didn't smile, but the smallest flicker of pride crossed her face. She knew this wasn't the end, not by a long shot, but it felt like she had at least made a point. The courtroom was silent as Judge Thompson stood up, signaling that the hearing was drawing to a close. We'll reconvene tomorrow, he announced. Until then, I suggest everyone reflect on what we've heard today. Maya stood up, her foster parents beside her. As they walked out of the courtroom, Maya's heart was still pounding, but there was a sense of determination in her steps. She wasn't going to give up without a fight. The following day, Maya sat in the same courtroom, her hands tightly gripping the edge of the table. She had spent a restless night, tossing and turning, her mind racing with the uncertainty of what would happen next. Judge Thompson entered the room with a purposeful stride. He glanced at Maya, and then at her foster parents. He didn't waste time. We're here today to continue this hearing. Maya, we'll start with you. How do you feel about your current living situation? Maya stood tall, her voice steady. I feel safe, Your Honor. I know my foster parents, Karen and Greg, love me. They've been there for me through everything, and they never gave up on me. Karen gave Maya a small, encouraging smile from the bench. Greg gave a nod of approval, his face etched with concern. Judge Thompson took a moment to write something in his notes before addressing Jasmine, who had been sitting in silence across the room. And you, Jasmine, you've made it clear you want Maya to live with you. What is your reasoning behind that? Jasmine stood up, her posture confident, but with a hint of nervousness. Your Honor, she began, I believe I'm the best person to take care of Maya. I have a stable home, and I've been trying to connect with her for months. I want her to be part of my life. The tension in the room seemed to rise as both women spoke, each trying to make their case. But Judge Thompson didn't let the moment linger for long. I've heard both of your points. Now it's time for me to make a decision. The courtroom went completely silent, and Maya held her breath. It felt like the world had paused, the weight of the moment pressing down on her chest. I've reviewed everything carefully, Judge Thompson continued. This is a difficult decision, but I believe that Maya should remain with her current foster family. They've provided her with love and stability, and I believe she's thriving in this environment. Maya exhaled a shaky breath, feeling a mix of relief and emotion flood through her. She couldn't help but glance at Karen and Greg, who were both fighting back tears. Jasmine, on the other hand, sat in stunned silence, her face an unreadable mask. She said nothing, but her eyes flashed with a mixture of disbelief and frustration. This hearing is adjourned, Judge Thompson announced, his voice calm but firm. Maya, I want you to know that you're safe here. You're in good hands. As the room emptied out, Maya stood there for a moment, her heart still racing. She didn't know what the future would bring, but for now, she was with the people who cared about her most. And that, in itself, was enough. Days passed, and Maya settled into her new routine. She woke up every morning to the warmth of Karen and Greg's home and the sense of peace that came with knowing she was safe. But there was still something missing. Every time she saw Jasmine at school, a part of her felt torn. She knew Jasmine was disappointed, but it was hard to shake the feeling that she was leaving something important behind. One afternoon, as Maya sat in her room, Karen knocked on the door. "Hey, kiddo, can we talk?" she asked gently, her voice full of concern. Maya turned to face her, trying to mask the emotions that had been weighing on her. "Sure, Karen. What's up?" Karen sat down beside her, her expression soft but serious. "I know this has been hard on you, and I want you to know that it's okay to feel conflicted. You don't have to pretend everything is perfect." Maya bit her lip, feeling the weight of her emotions building up. "I feel guilty, Karen. I know I should be happy here, but sometimes I just want to be with Jasmine." Karen placed a hand on Maya's shoulder, her touch warm and reassuring. "It's okay to feel torn, Maya. You don't have to choose between us. We're not trying to replace Jasmine. We just want you to feel loved and safe." Maya nodded slowly, the guilt in her heart easing just a little. She had never experienced this kind of unconditional support before, and it felt like a small weight lifting off her chest. "Thanks, Karen," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "I really needed to hear that." Later that evening, as Maya sat at the dinner table, she noticed Karen and Greg exchanging glances. There was something different in the air, a shift in their usual calm. Karen cleared her throat, looking at Greg before turning to Maya. "There's something we need to talk to you about," she said, her tone more serious than usual. Greg sighed, his face filled with concern. "Maya, we've been talking, and we think it might be time for you to have a conversation with Jasmine. We know it's been hard, but we want you to know that we're here to support you, no matter what." Maya froze for a moment, unsure of how to feel. Was this the right thing to do? Would she be betraying them by reaching out to Jasmine? "You don't have to do it if you're not ready," Karen added quickly, sensing Maya's hesitation. "But when you're ready, we'll be here for you." Maya looked at both of them, a soft smile tugging at her lips. For the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe everything could be okay. The next day, Maya found herself standing outside the school gates, her heart pounding in her chest. She had agreed to meet Jasmine after school, but the nerves were overwhelming. What if things were awkward? What if Jasmine was still angry? She took a deep breath and pushed the door open, stepping onto the school grounds. Her eyes scanned the crowd, looking for the familiar face of her best friend. Finally, she spotted Jasmine standing by the big oak tree at the edge of the playground. Her arms were crossed, and she seemed to be staring off into the distance, lost in thought. Maya walked toward her, each step feeling heavier than the last. She wasn't sure what to say, but she knew she needed to try. "Hey, Jasmine," Maya said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "Can we talk?" Jasmine looked at her, her expression unreadable. For a moment, there was silence between them. Finally, Jasmine let out a deep breath and nodded. "Okay," she replied quietly. They walked a little further from the crowd, finding a quiet spot by the fence where they could sit down. Maya felt her stomach churn as she wondered what Jasmine was thinking. "I know things have been weird between us," Maya started, nervously twirling a lock of her hair. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't know how to deal with everything." Jasmine didn't speak at first, just stared at the ground for a moment. Then, with a sigh, she lifted her head and met Maya's eyes. "I get it," she said softly. "I really do. But it still hurts, Maya." Maya felt a lump in her throat. She had hoped to fix things, but hearing Jasmine's words made the weight in her chest even heavier. I never wanted to replace you, she whispered. I didn't know how to be happy here. Jasmine's eyes softened, and she placed a hand on Maya's. I know you didn't mean to, she said, her voice gentle. But it's hard, you know. It's hard to see you with them and feel like I'm not enough. Maya squeezed Jasmine's hand, her heart aching. You are enough, Jasmine. You always will be. I just needed time to figure things out. Jasmine smiled faintly, a small tear slipping down her cheek. I just want you to be happy, Maya. That's all I've ever wanted for you. They sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of their conversation settling in. It was clear that there was still a lot of healing to do, but this felt like the first step toward repairing their friendship. I'm sorry, Jasmine, Maya whispered, the tears welling up in her eyes. I never wanted to hurt you. Jasmine hugged her tightly, pulling her into a warm embrace. I know, she said softly. I know. After the hug, Maya pulled back slightly, wiping her tears away with the back of her hand. I promise I'll make it right, she said, her voice steady now. We'll figure this out together, okay? Jasmine nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. I believe you, she said softly. But we'll take it slow, okay? Maya smiled back, relief washing over her. Of course. I want to be there for you, Jasmine. Always. The two of them sat there for a while, talking and laughing softly, just like they used to. It felt like the weight that had been between them for so long was slowly lifting. As the bell rang, signaling the end of the school day, Maya stood up, feeling more at peace than she had in a long time. I guess I'll see you tomorrow, she asked, raising an eyebrow. Jasmine stood up, too, adjusting her backpack. Definitely, she said with a smile. We'll take it one day at a time. As they walked away from the school together, Maya couldn't help but feel grateful for the second chance she had with Jasmine. It wasn't going to be easy, but with time, they could rebuild their friendship stronger than ever. Thanks for giving me a chance, Jasmine, Maya said quietly as they parted ways. I won't let you down. Jasmine paused for a moment, then gave her a reassuring smile. I know, she replied. I know you won't. As Maya watched Jasmine walk off in the other direction, she couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. She knew the road ahead would have its ups and downs, but with Jasmine by her side, things were already starting to feel right again. And for the first time in a long while, Maya felt truly content, knowing that no matter what came next, their friendship had been restored, and that was all that mattered.